We will get started in 1 minute. Hello. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Looks like we got you in the room twice.
Oh, you know what happened? It said, please try again. It wasn't working.
Oh, all right. Well, we got two of you. That's good. We
Did
have
you
three.
hear me? Did you
Yep.
hear me twice though?
No, only once.
It said, please try again in a few minutes. So I just totally closed it down and then opened it up again.
All
Huh.
right. That's all
Yeah.
right. We're good. So that makes three of us in the room. So interesting day.
Very.
About what we expected to the letter. We actually made a joke this morning, or it was yesterday afternoon, that it would be kind of ironic with all this buildup and everybody on both sides of what the market's going to do, that if we fly around in both directions and end up in the same spot at the end of the day. And it was pretty close to what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So I guess we'll just take a quick look at the SPY before we actually get into how the day started and eventually unfolded. Um, it was actually pretty clear price action. We were expecting a slow grind higher with some choppy price action after 11:30ish. We were hoping to get a good couple hours worth of trading, which basically would have taken us like right into this area here. We got kind of a dud as far as the market was concerned. But again, we had mentioned yesterday using the VIX and that kind of stuff on option expiration, tomorrow's quad, and today obviously the FOMC. The VIX is going to kind of be out of the whack, and a little bit more stock specific. We got a few trades this morning, but for the most part, I kind of feel like this was the worst trading morning that we've had all week, but nothing to complain about because we have had a really good Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think this afternoon, if you heeded the warnings, got in and got out really quickly, waited for the first move to be over, which was the move higher, and traded the downside, you might have made a couple of dollars, but it was a tough one to trade.
As most of them are.
Yeah.
As most of them are. So I guess we'll just make sure we give everybody an idea where all the stocks are coming from that we're going to discuss right now. So again, you can go to tradingeducationblogs.com, scroll down and either find them on here on the homepage or shoot over to appropriately named blogs. And that's actually where we're going to take a look at all of the stocks. So I just give everybody just a quick rundown of what we're looking at. Obviously volatility was the word of the day. It didn't matter where you were looking at between FOMC and volatility. It just depends on where you were reading. But I wanted to make it clear, just full disclosure of what my opinion on the day was. I don't like to trade FOMC day in the afternoons. I personally feel like there isn't an edge. So again, full disclosure about this afternoon, and I did not trade the afternoon. And you obviously could see on the charts there why. Give a little perspective on what we're looking at as far as the SPY coming into the day. Pre-market was trading just a little bit higher. 3 days of well bid, which means higher highs and higher lows. So good buying for 3 days, bullish target. And actually, Marion, you had mentioned it would be interesting to see if we traded higher today and then sold off tomorrow. And that was really nothing more than in my opinion, a really good call. Just reading the price action of the last 4 days, the market might have been already pricing this in over the last week, get one final push higher, and then we sell off. And I mean, you nailed it. It was in the meeting. Everybody heard it this morning. It just happened today so far, as opposed to trading higher and stopping up here. So pretty solid read on that. I guess we'll get into what the tape looked like coming into the day. So obviously Thursday night, FOMC day, big picture of beautiful Janet Yellen there. I don't think her hair was that white about a year ago, but
Yeah, really.
comes with the job. Just look at President Obama, right?
Yeah.
So this is the tape that we were looking at. This is a heat map of the S&P 500 at the end of trading yesterday, which kind of coincides with what we were looking at there on the chart. You can clearly see that we've had a couple of nice days in a row of movement to the upside. Today was kind of neutral, which I think we were kind of leaning towards neutral being bullish, where we're not selling off. They're not hitting the tape before the market. We kind of opened and stayed there for the whole day.
Right.
And this is actually the tape that I'm sorry, not the whole day, up to the announcement. I'm sorry.
Right up to, yeah.
So anyway, this is what I was talking about trading today. We pretty much didn't do that much. And this is actually 11 o'clock here. So it was after 11 o'clock, we actually caught a bid. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is yesterday's tape, not today's. Obviously there's no movement in the afternoon here. So this is actually what I was saying. The mornings, we actually made a note of it this morning that for some reason right now, it seems like the afternoon or after the first 90 minutes has been a little bit better to trade in the market. I mean, there's been individual stocks that have been absolutely tradable, but if you lean heavily on, I'll see what the market does, then I'll look to see if I want to be long or short, you're probably a little frustrated. So just make note of that and go back and look at some charts just to see if that actually is the case, because you might be missing some good trading opportunities in individual stocks, despite the fact that the market's hasn't really been trending for the first hour or so. So you can see coming into the day, we basically took out this resistance level at the end, and we had basically two really solid days outside of resistance. Now, you could have drew a trend line here at the body of that candle, which would have took us to just below 202 in that area, or we actually set a target up here at 204. We didn't fully expect it to hit this one right out of the gate, but we actually ended up doing it. So here's basically, this was my morning call. I didn't want to put words in your mouth, Mary. This is what actually I wrote. FOMC day, I will not be trading the afternoon. Do not feel there's an edge. To me, that's the big thing. You have to decide if you're going to trade in the afternoon. You need to be fluid on the keyboard. You need to be making definite decisions. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing a spike higher. You're going to be chasing a spike lower. You're going to be wrong on both of them. And then after that's done, you should have said I should have done nothing. That
and I
being
think
said,
we made it pretty clear. We said if you want to trade, you need to remember, get in and get out, that it's a day trade because this can turn on a dime. I think we tried to make that pretty clear to everybody who really did want to trade.
Yep, I think as mentors or moderators, whatever anybody wants to call us, it's our job to outline the scenarios, and then it's up to everybody themselves to actually make the decisions. So, we never want to say definitely do this. It's always about strategy, tactics, and probabilities, but then ultimately it comes down to each individual trader deciding when they want to pick the fight. I will say this, though, we can strongly recommend when the market conditions are really obvious or really not obvious. And I think those are the opportunities that you could not only learn how and when to make more money, but understanding when not to trade is just as important. Keeping money in your pocket is worth the price of admission just as much as learning when to push it, because let's face it, the market's not always obvious, and it's making those distinctions and then getting to the point where you're risking money on good ideas as often as possible. That's when your P&L actually starts to turn the corner. This was the interesting thing, and this kind of actually got spurred by something you had said this morning, Marion. We're traveling higher. It's 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and all of a sudden it's 4.5 days higher. Is the market tipping its hand that it's going to take off because of no change, which it actually kind of did, but then we'll get into what was actually said or a snippet of it, and then actually we closed on the low. So this is actually seems to be the statement that everybody was focusing on mostly, the mention of pressure on inflation and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know that you are a much more fundamental smarty pants than I am. So how did you interpret it with your experience?
I actually was surprised we went negative. I thought we'd sell off a little because I didn't see it. We had, Pete and I had a little bet as to if it would be raised or not, and I actually didn't think it would be. And I thought she'd be dovish. So I guess I wasn't expecting as great of a sell-off as we got at the top there, because it was what I had expected. I also didn't expect what we got either. The nice, we went over 202.
Yep, pretty convincingly too. Almost got to 203 actually.
Right, 202.80 I think was the high. Do I think they'll rethink it tomorrow morning and there'll be all the buzz tomorrow morning and all the analysts weighing in on what they think? Yes. And I think it will make a difference. So I would say tomorrow is going to have to be another caution day. Not only that, but it's quad witching. So I think it's going to have to be another day of caution.
Which there's nothing wrong with that. Look, I mean,
Well,
as a
I think
trader, you have to pick which fights you're going to go into. And today was a little challenging because of obviously what just transpired, and Marion just explained very well. And tomorrow is quad witching, and whether you believe prices get pinned at a certain number or whatnot, it doesn't matter. There's something else going behind the scenes tomorrow, so you have
But
to make a
that's so
decision.
well said. So many people think that there's some conspiracy theory or something to have to do with quad witching, and it's not. There is a fundamental reason behind why there is pinning. I meant why there is pinning, but it's so true, and you've got to be so careful for that.
Yep, yep. So again, we've purposely labeled this the trading recap. It's not just the market recap. We're trying to help everybody really think through trading scenarios and building an argument for whether or not you really feel like you have an edge to risk money. Let's call it what it is. When you're trading, it doesn't matter how much experience you have to decide, is it worth accepting risk because you believe you have an edge that your idea is going to follow through. So with that simple definition, can you really say that was a good idea to trade after the FOMC announcement? Can I really say it's going to be a good idea to trade tomorrow? Well, you know what? Tomorrow might be a little bit easier to read than today. But again, I'm all about preserving capital and then, really doing what you're supposed to do when it's obvious. I will go to the grave for this because I've been doing this a long time. And again, it's not about me. It's about my mistakes and how they can help you. And I know, Marion, you and I have had plenty of conversations about, very rarely on the right side of a big surprise like that. You got to manage risk first. And if the market's a little choppy, there's nothing wrong with stepping aside. You want the edge. We're not getting paid by the hour. And I actually did have people email me today, because I do get conservative in these situations. And look, I'm putting it out on the blog. I'm putting it out on social media. Yeah, I'm conservative because I don't like to gamble. And to me, that's not an edge. And you can see, yeah, that's why I'm that way. So if you think I'm too conservative, too bad. So, we almost got what you were looking for. When we pushed down here, I'm like, ooh, but we quickly recovered, consolidated a little bit. These are 10-minute candles, by the way. When we consolidated here, I really thought we were going to get that good push higher into the close. Because if you remember this morning, we had mentioned how we trade the last 90 minutes of the day or the last hour of the day would kind of set the precedent for what I think was going to happen tomorrow. And we did not get that solid push higher. So I'm not as clear on them reevaluating everything tonight. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm a pure technician, and I listen to the other stuff just to see if I missed anything or something I should know. I think it's interesting, the thought process that you have that, okay, everything came out today, all this buildup, reactions were taken in both directions, and now to think through, let me, meaning analysts and everybody who would have that opinion, let me take another 6 to 8 hours, go get a coffee and read this over and see if, should I really be bidding tomorrow, or was the end of day sell-off not exaggerated and simply the start of a new move down. So I'm kind of in wait and see mode again tomorrow. I don't have anything going into tomorrow other than I'm going to wait to see how we open. I think the open will tell a lot for the day. I think if we open back above 200 tomorrow or have any kind of decent move to the upside, I think that's clearly going to be a trend higher. If we stay down here and first push off the lows goes lower, I think we're going to trade lower. And I know that kind of sounds like I'm hedging. I'm really not. I don't feel like there's an edge after what happened, and I'm waiting. But I do believe we're going to trend tomorrow. That I do firmly believe. I do not think we're going to have any of this stuff tomorrow. We're going to bounce back and forth and just have these indecision candles all day. So I'm waiting tomorrow to see what happens before I take my position. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see a longer-term picture, so I can't guess on a longer-term picture, which means I have to drop down my time frames to day trade until I think that I have the longer-term picture manifests itself somewhere here based on what happened.
Right. I think that's actually the smarter way to trade, because you don't really know on a day like yesterday, and there will be volatility because of the options expiring. So you've got one thing on top of another.
Yep. So just so you know, well, actually, I'm sure we'll both talk about it in our blog post or whatnot tomorrow, but tomorrow's quad witching. So there's going to be, again, there's something else going behind the scenes tomorrow. When you're going to take more risk You want it to be justified because there's a solid probability and an edge to your trading. So that's essentially what we're looking at coming into today. That was what was going on with the Fed. So there's the statement that I'm sure you're going to read and watch everywhere tonight. So this is actually the I got to change this. I keep saying that every day. It's the S&P 500 map. Interestingly, Marion, we do spend a lot of time watching, for anybody who's in the 9:30 meeting with us, trading live on the large cap stocks. And there's a reason for that. They are the ones that have good liquidity consistently that you can make money on a day that the market is maybe not necessarily easier to read. And you can see, again, we've been talking about Facebook every day. We'll take a look at the chart in a minute. It actually reached the profit target today that we were looking for, which was the 95 area.
Right.
Google had an inside day yesterday, and we were looking for that to trade higher off the inside day. And Amazon also kind of the same type of price pattern. If you don't mind, I'd like to, if we could start out with Apple, which I think was a little bit of a disappointing opening for the news. What do you think?
I definitely agree. So Apple, the S&P upgraded Apple, and it was basically a dud on the day. It did nothing.
So give everybody an idea. Normally that would be a very bullish opening for the stock, and this is the opening price. So you can see not only did it open lower, which that alone was a surprise, but then it didn't trade above the open until after the FOMC announcement, and then obviously closed near the lows. So really interesting price action today that occurred in Apple based on what should have been very good news. However, Netflix had a extremely similar move. Now, again, they're not the same type of stock, but price action wise over here, Netflix had a very good news that day, which was expanding into different countries, blah, 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 hovering right around 100, spiked above 100, and you would have expected it to have traded bullish pretty cleanly. Not only did it not trade higher that day, but then the next 3 days were actually negative to very, very indecisive. So we might end up getting the same thing in Apple where it doesn't do what we expected it to do, but maybe a couple of days later. We were all over Netflix after this engulfing candle yesterday. Started to trade well again today to get some follow through. So maybe Apple's just going to be a little bit of a delayed reaction. Maybe it was because there were a lot of other stuff going on this week before people bought. Maybe they're buying it at better prices despite the upgrade. Maybe the upgrade will kick in the same way this story kicked in a week later. I don't know. But again, our whole job together is trying to build a concept for everybody to lean on so that you feel confident. You build an argument for a great idea. The weaker the argument, don't trade it. The more solid the argument, get in there and don't hesitate. Do exactly what you said you were going to do.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think Netflix is one to keep on the radar again. It did give it back with the rest of the market, but it got over 107. 107.50, I believe.
Well, we've been using a lot of these stocks that got beat up. They got crushed below the 20. Quite a few of them are trading above the 20 now. Obviously, the 50, when I say 20, I'm sorry, the 20 period moving average. Now a lot of them are trading above the 20. Then you get a lot of stocks where, actually go over to UA, where they were above the 20 and the 50 prior to the last couple of days, and they were in the watch list every day just for that scenario or criteria, however you want to word it. We had 100 and this big double top up here in UA as the resistance. So we were below here, looking for it to test 100, looking to hit here. And obviously, we had good news yesterday, but we got some follow through today here. You can see right out of the gate. Here's yesterday's close. Here's today's open. So 103.25 to 105.50. So again, knowing which stocks you should be in, knowing which stocks have liquidity, knowing which stocks have room to go, even on a crappy day, and this is and let me crappy. I'm sorry. Even on a day where the SPY and the general market didn't do that much, this was the point that I wanted to start. Why I started the meeting out the way I did. The SPY didn't do that much, but if you had this stock in your list that it broke out through resistance, good news yesterday, looking for follow through, that's a pretty clean move in the first hour of the day.
Right, so that's why it's important at the beginning of the day to game plan, to have, you can't watch 5,000 stocks in the first half hour.
Yep.
It's physically impossible. We can't even, Pete and I can't even do it together. And believe me, we type fast and we're going through all those stocks, but we have a defined list. That's why you have to game plan. You have to know which ones have the greatest possibility of moving.
Yep, and that's the whole point of having, we have a bigger list here, Marion, and there's a reason that the list is bigger. We're trying to take everything possible and then putting it into this criteria. Again, just for example, stocks that showed weakness contra to the market being strong yesterday. So all of these stocks were weak yesterday. If the market was in a downtrend today, these would be the first stocks. So we're helping you filter out, and then from the list, you pick the ones that have the right volatility. And from this list of 20 or 30 stocks just here, maybe you pick 7, and then you only watch those 7. But you absolutely need to know that prior to the market opens, why you like them, what the levels are, and then only watch those stocks. It will make you on top of your game, and you won't miss opportunities. Because let's face it, as traders, we've all been there. The worst thing in the world that happens is something does exactly what you thought it was going to do, and you had too many stocks in your list and you missed it. That eats away at you.
I definitely agree with you there.
Okay, so this is basically the end of day map. You can clearly see it's not nearly as green as the one from yesterday. Some larger cap stocks, and interestingly here, the financials actually turning red at the end of the day as well and staying there. So we'll get a little bit more into this. Here is just so everybody has a mental map of what we were looking at. This was the first target that we were looking for coming out of yesterday's price action from here. And we use the body here. We tend to use where the stock actually traded and within the body. Even though it did trade up here to the wick, we generally draw the support and resistance levels at that area. So we kind of went through there, and all the way up here, 204.39 was the next level. And man, we came pretty close on that spike higher. I thought that we were going to end up pushing through there.
Yeah, so
something to mention from a trading perspective, and we harped on this quite a bit this morning. And if you watch the videos, let's say from a week ago, the size of the list of stocks to buy was this big. And now all of a sudden, 20-day breakouts, there's a lot of them, a lot of stocks that are positive on the week, above the 20-period simple moving average. And this is the big one, closed 2% higher from the open. So that means yesterday was a big green candle and strong for the last 5 days and above the 20. So the point I'm making here is all of a sudden the boat is starting to tip a little bit towards the bullish area. And that's stuff that you see under the hood. I keep using that term, but it makes sense because you can't just see everything looking at the indices. You need to see, and all of a sudden, wow, there's a much bigger list of stocks that are bullish right now. Something's going on.
Right, exactly.
So I guess we could take a look at a few of these, Marion, without making this into a 2-hour talk show. UA, obviously, we just discussed UA. Facebook is one that we've been discussing quite a bit. And again, here's Facebook out of the gate. And then it kind of got a little, I wouldn't say disappointing, but this is where we fully expected it to have a nice push higher. I guess just after the fact that it's kind of slowly creeping higher. You said it very well this morning. You said the stock's not selling off, but maybe it needs a catalyst before it takes off. And I think that was really, really well said because that's exactly how it's trading. It's not rolling over, but it's certainly not giving you any of these right now.
Right.
ATVI was actually one that we had on the list as well today. Again, you can't ignore stocks making new 52-week highs, and you could also take into consideration what it's done. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 out of the last 8 days positive closes above the open. Pretty good move higher. If this stock opens flat and pushes higher, I would say that's not a long tomorrow because it needs a little time to consolidate this move to the upside. CCL and RCL, just to give you a little idea of some stocks that are at or near levels. Clearly see we're breaking through here at 53. RCL actually broke through, so we're trying to make sure we give you some ideas that have room to go so you put them in your list again tomorrow. And that's really it on the long side. We had a couple of really good ones. Fit got 2 days worth of follow through. Again, not obvious order flow, and that was a big thing we discussed this morning as well. You're probably trading a lot of the stocks you're looking at right now just based on the last month, the last week, the last couple of days. We got to really pull it back, dial it down to find even the shortest term edge, and then that's obviously going to help with your trade management, knowing how much conviction you have it because you're only trading with the most recent price action. Some stocks, however, do have some longer term price action, like obviously Home Depot has been in a really nice long-term uptrend for a while. We had 118 as a significant level on this way up as a breakdown. We actually drew this line over here, pulled back with the rest of the market, really clean pennant, broke out, got above 118 again today. Be interesting to see if we can get back above there and make another run at that 123, 124 level. So you got to be very specific on those on the trades. You got to make sure they have room to go, which is there profit potential in exchange for the risk. Actually, you know what? Before we get into the inside days, I guess we should just quickly talk about the China stocks because they've been getting a little bidding lately.
Yeah, they definitely have.
China popping out of the little channel there. There was a story about Baba today possibly leaving our exchanges and going to their own. Only and inside day there, so I guess a little indecision there on that story. Touching a little bit on the oil and gas integrated did not roll over again, and definitely something going on there where there's some buying in there. CVX, ExxonMobil, and a few of those other stocks. As far as inside days and setting up trades for tomorrow, again, inside days lead to nice, really clean trend days. The big one we were watching today was WDC, and for some reason, it got right back into that range again and did not give us the look or the breakout that we were looking for, which is right here. Now we have 6 dojis in a row, which essentially means the stock opened at or near the same price that it closed at. So this is essentially basically in breakout mode again. So the one I want to make sure we touch on is Google for a breakout, and we actually had a really clean breakout. This was the previous day's high, broke out, flagging nicely, looked like it was taking off again, and obviously the rest of this stuff happened, but very clean. And I guess the reason I want to make sure we point this one out, when you have an inside candle and it's hovering at the high of the previous day or hovering at the low, there's a good chance it's going to break out in that direction. So even though it didn't break out of this day, this was actually constructive for a bullish move because it's in the top of that range. So just keep an eye on that when you're doing your charting at the end of the day. If you get inside days, sometimes you get really good clean clues like that.
And then we also were pointing out Amazon because it was an inside day.
Yep. Let me zoom on that one. Sorry.
That's okay.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, exactly. Almost 2 inside days in a row, not quite, but yesterday definitely was. And again, these are the kind of days. Look at that trend day. You know, we have them in the list every day. Go over to the blog, scroll down to the bottom, and there's a whole list of stocks that have inside days. And the reason you're looking at them is for this type of day to expect. Now, again, discount this end part of the day here with the FOMC. Inside days lead to trend days. And this is the result of yesterday's inside day in Amazon. So thank you, Marion. I'm sorry I went by.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just wanted to give them a little.
And I'll finish up with stocks on the short side. You can see that the list has gotten dramatically smaller. Not nearly. As a matter of fact, running the scans, for example, on this one, I have over $20, average true range of at least $1.50. And average 2 million shares. I want to say about a week and a half ago, that was 140 stocks to sort through to see for opportunities. And now that list is down to 50 something that meet that criteria. So obviously, again, we're starting to head to the other side where there's a lot more stocks on the bullish side of the tape. So as far as heading into tomorrow, I am in day trading mode, and I have been. I think yesterday was probably the only day I wasn't. Yesterday, I really felt, and we wrote on the blog that I thought we were going to get followed through based on this day closing strong, and we ended up getting a good, clean day. Today, I was completely uninvolved, and I made that clear to actually anybody who's been watching me or listening to me trade. I've been that way for years, and that's based on my P&L. I just didn't find I had an edge. So for tomorrow, I'm back into day trading mode, which day trading mode to me means I'm watching the most recent price action. I'm resetting it every hour to determine if I want a trend. And if you want some more detail on how to do that, you can actually shoot over here and download this here. This is actually a really cool, really simple day trading strategy, and it's the 4 price points you need. And again, this is the interesting part. You reset them once per hour, which is kind of cool. It's very easy to apply once you understand it. So that's what I see for tomorrow, Mary. Now, I'm not sure I have an opinion on long or short unless I have an opinion that I think we're going to trend tomorrow despite quad witching. I just don't have I don't have an opinion on which side because we kind of ended up where we started today.
I actually happen to agree with you, and I think that's what people have to take into consideration, and the traders have to know going in that we're not looking we're looking for a direction.
Yep, and those price points will tell you.
Clear direction with what happened today.
I'm not sure that we're going to get a big move overnight. I think that there's a lot of digesting going on. Look, I could be wrong. We got a monster move at the end of the day here, almost $3, maybe a little bit more. But we're still kind of hanging around where we closed at the lows. So it'll be interesting to see. But again, as a trader going into tomorrow, if you don't feel like you have an edge based on whatever the daily charts are, weekly charts, whatever you're looking at, then you have to admit to yourself you're in day trading mode, which means you're trading off of the most recent price action. And normally that would be yesterday's high and low. But for a lot of stocks, that's even going to be difficult because of how wide the range was yesterday. Because it would be kind of hard for us to get back up here unless we have a monster move to the upside because everybody changed their opinion. So you really got to be tight on your reference points tomorrow.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
And
if you can't read it, you can't see it, don't do it.
Yep, I agree. There's nothing wrong with preserving capital until the positions become a little more obvious. You're not going to win on every trade, but you have every option in the world to only allocate money when you feel like that edge is there and exercise that right. Okay, Mary, thank you very much. Have an awesome day, and I will speak
You
to you tomorrow
too.
morning.
And I'll see you in the morning.
And
Bye.
I owe you and Paula ice cream.
That's right.
Have a good night.